Hey everyone, this is Diamond Rivera. Yes, and we are back at the Let's Discuss with Diamond podcast. Man, it's been a while, everyone. I hope everyone has had an amazing summer. We are in the fall as we speak. Just finished out the New York International Salsa Congress. I hope everyone had an amazing time. And we're back at it with the podcast. We're back at it with guests. And today's special guest here is someone I've admired for quite some time. His dancing style, his teaching style is really just mesmerizing, inspiring, and being able to have him on this platform today means a lot because, especially in the world of bachata, we have instructors all over the world, but there's not many instructors like this gentleman here. And I honestly am happy and pleased to announce that we have the one and only Guillermo Reyes to the platform.
Hey, what's going on? What's going on, everyone? What's up, Diamond? Thank you so much for having me on your platform on this podcast, and I'm very excited to get into it. Let's talk about whatever you want. No holds barred.
Yes, no holds barred. Honestly, Guillermo, to have you on means a lot because with this platform, as we speak as well privately, the focus is helping people understand the artistry, understand the person behind the artistry as well, because we realize you don't teach 24/7. You do have a life outside of dance, but also understanding and helping people realize all the experiences have helped you through your journey to where you are now. And for me, seeing your bachata dancing style, my first question to you is if you can compile in one word your style of teaching, what would it be?
I would say my style of teaching is more about connecting.
Mm-hmm.
I understand the kind of like the psyche of a student or of a client. People come to take classes not because they want to be on stage. Some of them eventually want to be on stage, not because they want to perform or not because they want to show off on a video. A lot of people are coming to dance classes because they want to overcome something, right? They're overcoming a loss, so they want to find themselves. They want to grow. It's about personal development. It's about like I said, overcoming some sort of loss.
Mm-hmm.
So my job as an instructor or a coach is to figure that out in each student and teach to that student. Now in a class of 20 or 30, sometimes it's difficult, but as they come week to week, what I do, and when I do my plans, is like, okay, I'm going to say certain things in this class to touch 2 or 3 people. I'm going to say some things in this class to touch because I know that they need this. They need to hear this. It's not just about the 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. It's not just about the box step. It's about how is this person going to get motivated to wake up the next day? How is this person going to get motivated to keep coming to class or keep pushing through whatever it is that they're going through? So that would be more my style, my teaching style, connection.
I,
If I want to say a word,
mm-hmm.
in terms of like what we would say in the business, it would be just traditional. I guess that's what you would call it, right? But
Yeah.
I just say I just teach. That's
Thank
it.
you. And listen, that understanding of how this dance world has evolved over the years, whether it's the commercial aspect, whether it's the underground roots of it all, especially with bachata, because we realized in the last 10 to 12 years, this community has flipped on its head, even starting from the East Coast. Now globally, we see how bachata has, broadened. But the one thing I really hone in is and focusing is the teachers that really know how to teach, because for me that is very important, because in my personal opinion, I feel there is a oversaturation of people who become teachers, and what happens is the educational part of things gets lost at times, because sometimes I'm asking teachers, like, who taught you? How much training did you have? Was it just you took a year of classes and someone said, hey, you should teach a class, and you're going forth from there? Because for me, I think anyone that chooses to be a teacher, that is a very big responsibility. You are, in essence, you really are molding a new generation of dancers, of socialites in this community, because what you teach them, what you put forth to them, a lot of times they bring out into the parties, the events. And for me, to see the way you taught or the way you teach and through your reels, through your videos, it definitely is meaningful because one thing I love, like you said, connection, the connecting part. When I'm looking at your teaching, I'm not looking at the steps. I'm looking at the person behind you or the person next to you or your student that's smiling, that's enjoying their time. Because, nothing's worse than coming to a class and not enjoying yourself. You learn two patterns and then that's it.
That's correct.
And for us, of course, we'll get into that. But my question to you, or really, can you help me understand and give us a kind of a summary of who is Guillermo Reyes before Empire Mambo, before teaching, before it all?
So before it all, and just to piggyback on what you said about teaching, fortunately for me, I learned how to teach before I learned how to dance because I was a classroom teacher. My career, when I got out of college, so I went to the State University of New York, which is in upstate New York. I went to grad school at Colorado State University. I was getting my master's degree in ethnic studies. I hated it. I was a terrible grad student. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do? Am I going to come back to New York or am I going to stay in Colorado? So I'm in Colorado and I'm like, okay, one thing that I can try to do is teach because I have an undergrad degree in history, whatever, I just decided. They needed teachers in Denver teaching in Denver, Colorado. They needed bilingual teachers. I applied and I got it because I was bilingual. That's it. They put me in the. That's it. That's all they needed. I didn't have any credentials. I didn't have any education background aside from like tutoring when I was in high school. I feel like I've always been kind of an educator in a way. So like my job when I was in high school is I worked for this organization called Alianza Dominicana.
Yes, wait, the one that's in the Heights.
Yeah, the
with
one
Ramon, with Kerry.
And Kerry was actually my first boss ever.
Yes, I see.
Yes.
Once you said that, it put.
Yes.
I had an interview with both of them, and they talked about that.
Right. So Kerry was my first boss ever. Like she was a tough boss, by the way. But so I was a tutor. I was an after school tutor, which is teaching. But going back to Denver, I just learned on the job. I was able to get my education certification through this program called Denver Teaching Fellows, which is kind of like Teach for America. And I think there's like a New York City Teaching Fellows as well. And I was able to already develop. I already knew how to create an objective. I knew how to run a classroom. I knew how to create a syllabus, a curriculum. I knew about backwards planning. I knew about the gradual release model, objective. I do, we do, you do, summaries. I already knew all of that before I even did a basic step. Because when I started training in salsa. I didn't start training in bachata. I started with salsa and I started with Edie the Salsa Freak. So Edie the Salsa Freak. Yes,
from California. I remember her when she used to work with Al Liquid Silver.
Al Liquid Silver was her husband. Correct. Yes. Right. So, and she was in Denver, right? So I'm in Denver, and all of a sudden I decided to Google salsa classes because I knew I was gonna leave my ex at that time. Like, I'm gonna leave this shit. I need something to do.
Yeah.
So I just Googled. I said, salsa classes. I was like, I'm just try it, right? Edie the Salsa Freak contacts me. Now this is in this was in January of 2014. January 2014, she contacts me and she says, I have an apprenticeship program. Have you ever danced? I said, no, I've never danced. She said, just join the program. We train 20 hours a week, plus we do socials. I was like, okay. I went to my first class. I got hooked. So what she does, she has a program. She has an apprenticeship program under her school. Her school is called Black Belt Salsa. And she has kind of like a karate system where students move up. You start with white belt until you get to black belt.
Okay.
Now it works. The marketing angle works.
Yeah.
People, her classes, I'm talking about, she was getting 100 people every Tuesday. This was insane. But she's the one that told me from the beginning. She said, if you learn how to teach, you can turn this into a career. Don't focus on performing. Don't focus on the videos. Don't focus on shows. None of that. Become the best teacher that you can become. The advantage that I had is that I had a background in teaching already. Now, what she did was she kind of like showed me how to apply elementary school curriculum, elementary school pedagogy to dance. And that's what kind of like put me at the forefront, and I was able to build a big following in Denver. And it's because of that, because I was able to learn how to teach, because the skill of teaching is different from the skill of dancing. Most dancers cannot teach.
Yes,
and that's because so you'll have a dancer that will spend $5,000 on private lessons, but they won't go take a pedagogy course because $1,000 at a community college and really learn how to teach. They won't do it, but they'll try to learn this spin and that trick, and then they wonder why they broke. They broke because they focus on the wrong things. You got to teach, and you got to be able to connect with people. That's how you're going to get clients, and that's how you're going to grow a school or a class.
And that's interesting enough you said that, Guillermo, because I hold that very true, because many people don't realize a lot of the artists that go to these congresses, most of the times it's tied between, all right, if you're going to perform, you're going to be teaching a workform. And there's very few sometimes that can just only do performances. There's always that attached. But then also you're realizing, I realized it over the years, as not just a performer, but as a videographer behind the scenes, I'm watching some of these instructors, and they're like in flux when people ask them those basic questions. And in terms of the arm placement, the weight transfers. And sometimes they're like, they don't know what to say because they assume if I got it, you got it.
Right.
And, so then going from 2014 and Edie Salsa Freak with Black Belt Salsa, how long did it take for you? And sometimes when I ask these questions, many people say you're still in that process, which I understand. But for you, was there like a moment that you said, I'm actually getting this? Like, of course, there's those little struggles in the beginning, but was there a moment or a certain time that was like, okay, everything is clicking, everything is working, and now let's see what happens when I do teach my first class?
Right. So for me, it probably took me about 2 years to say, I can teach. I can teach this. I already knew I was a good teacher because of what I was able to listen. If you can teach kindergartners how to read, you're a good teacher. Okay. If you can teach third graders the multiplication and division, you're a good teacher. It takes time, but you're a good teacher. In terms of dance, but see, this is what I did with dance. I wasn't focused on performing. I did performances here and there, but I was strictly focused on becoming a great teacher and being able to analyze movement and being able to analyze people. So in terms of like the dance skill took much longer than the teaching skill, because I was dedicating. I'm telling you that the apprenticeship program is like 20 hours a week. This was on top of this on 20 hours, then plus going to socials, plus going to workshops. I wasn't just going once a week, taking a class, and then in 2 years teaching. I was specifically focused on becoming a great teacher and a great dancer. And I was doing, like I said, about 20 hours a week, plus privates, plus everything. Like, that's the thing. I wasn't going into it to take. I was going into it to give. So when I knew I wanted to give, I'm like, okay, I have to really dig deep and focus on this. And Edie the Salsa Freak, she gave me that opportunity to really, like, she really taught me how to teach and my fundamentals when it came to dancing. Because that's another thing. I started on one, because West Coast was all on one.
Thank you. But people don't know.
West Coast was all on one. Like, there was no on two in Denver. I remember I went to the LA Salsa. One of my first congresses was the LA Salsa Congress in May 2015, and everybody was dancing on one.
Oh, absolutely.
It was only like Mambo was like an on two team. I remember Mambo, but everyone was dancing on one on the West Coast. There wasn't. I didn't even really understand what on two was.
And it's interesting you say that, because a lot of us on the East Coast, we take for granted when it comes to the on two style and everything like that. But realizing, like, me being around for so long, I remember going to LA Congress early 2000s, 10, 12 years old. And I'm like, oh, this is new to me. But for them on the West Coast in LA, like, on one style, I feel is for me was a lot more, you're capable of doing these tricks and lifts and a lot more. But for me, I loved on one because it made me really focus in on every detail. Because on two, sometimes you can have that moment to kind of like cheat a little bit. And don't get me wrong, people cheat a little bit.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
mean,
that's
with
a fact.
on one, it's kind of like you can get exposed real quick if things don't go right. And people
Oh,
like
for sure.
Edie the Salsa Freak, Outlook with Silver, and so many
The
groups and
Vasquez
companies.
brothers, the Vasquez brothers,
Yes.
Johnny Vasquez, you know,
Francisco Vasquez, yes.
they're the
And
ones that brought that style, you know, that kind of like Hollywood flashy
yes,
style. That's what it
that's
is. LA is about flash. Edie used to tell me when she was dancing in LA, every dancer knew there could be a Hollywood agent at the club. So you had to always be on point, showing out, showing off. And that's that on one style. And it's fast, salsa dura.
yes.
There is no slow salsa, which salsa romantica is my favorite.
Oh, it is.
But out there, it's like fast, 7 minute songs hard.
And people, and mind you, people now they argue like, oh my God, when a band plays is 7 to 10 minutes, but like I appreciate that band.
I
But
appreciate
also
I
that's
do.
cardio in itself. That's another level of Zumba. A 10 minute, a
100%.
10-minute song at a Congress. And listen, like even seeing for me researching you realizing you taught Zumba
I
at one
did.
point. And you, I think, and it was something I really appreciated. You said that you meshed Bachanga, Zumba basic, and there was something else you said. There was three things you had put, but when I'm watching that video, the one thing I'm focusing on again is the interaction with the people, with your students. And it's like, damn, this is a person that cares. But also another video I saw doing my research was there was a 10-week salsa progression video with a woman named Cassie Capelli. And she wrote, and what she wrote in the description was you being her mentor. And that says something because as you notice, so many teachers out there, but there are not many teachers that make an impact in a student's life. Granted, even for 10 weeks, people take a 10-week course or a 10-week package and just move on. But to realize that you made that impact, that shows, like you said, you learned how to teach before you learned how to dance.
Correct.
And now being able to help incorporate those two, that's really special. So then my question to you is, what was that first moment of teaching your first class like? What was the emotion kind of towards it? Were you nervous or you like, you had everything under control?
So I was very stressed out my first, I would say my first couple of classes, because when you do the apprenticeship program with Edie, she throws you in. You're an apprentice, like as an assistant, but like what she does is you kind of, so I compare it to football.
Mm-hmm.
In football, you're training, right? You go to practice every day to show up on Sunday and you come up with a game plan so that you can go out and perform on Sunday. The way Edie's apprenticeship program worked is you would train all week and she would tell you, today you're going to work with the white belts. You're only going to do crossbody lead right turn. That's what you're going to do for 90 minutes. That's it. There is no crossbody lead right turn with the right for the lead and then another crossbody in a beginner. That's not how it works. Each student is learning one or two moves every class. That's just what it was. So for me, I was very stressed because it was something new, but I always say the only way to progress, the only way to gain confidence is doing things that scare you. See, some people think the other way around. They're like, oh, I'm not going to do that because it scares me. But I'm confident. I'm a confident person, but I'm not going to do things that put me out of my comfort zone. Mm-hmm. Me, I've always been the opposite. I just jumped right in. So yeah, it was stressful at first, even though I had taught Zumba, which I had forgot. I even forgot that video was out there that you found on YouTube. So that was, that was 2010. And even then in 2010, see, I always say anything that you want to do, you got to seek out somebody that's successful in it. And now I remember at that time, there was this guy that was dominating in Colorado because there was barely any male Zumba instructors. His name is Felix Ojeda. And he's the one that created Pachanga, which Pachanga was just an offshoot of Zumba. So that's what he titled his kind of style of Zumba. But I would just go to his classes and I paid him to show me how to do a fitness classes. I paid him. I paid him to show me, okay, how do you run a fitness class? How do you decide what song to warm up in? How do you do the ups and downs? Because he would do fast songs and slow songs and mid songs. And I paid him and he taught me. Same thing with Edie the Salsa Freak. When I was in that apprenticeship program, I had to pay her. I believe it was like $80 or $100 a month. Plus I was paying for privates. A lot of people think, oh, I should just get it for free. Why? No. If you get something for free, it's the devil. Don't do it. You should always invest in yourself. And that's what I feel a lot of artists lack. They invest in the wrong things. You already know how to dance. Why are you paying for more dance classes? You need to take business classes, sales classes, marketing classes, communication classes, persuasion classes. That's what you need to do if you want to make this last forever. But if you just go into congresses and taking workshop, and sometimes not even that, a lot of them are not even investing in anything anymore. They're just like, oh, I've been doing this for 10 years. Well, 10 years already passed you by. Yes. You can't get mad at the new generation coming up, getting all these opportunities. You got lazy. You got comfortable. And now you got to deal with the competition. Now you got to deal with the ramifications of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then that's the thing I have to tell people a lot is 10, 12 years prior. And I got a lot of friends and a lot of people who've been doing this for decades. And I had to tell a lot of these people that they call legends. A lot of the problems was that you never interacted with the new generation. You thought that what you did 15 years ago was going to last, and you didn't realize it was going to pass by because with the addition of social media and the attention span of the people we interact with is quick. It's like, if you can't give me that moment, I'm moving on to the next. And for me, I'm thankful that I can still have that memory like an elephant of what these people did to help where we are now. But like you said, it's, it's about moving on. It's about like, what are you doing for me lately? Like Janet Jackson says.
That is correct.
And realizing too, especially New York, we're like a New York minute type of people. Like we saw something, it was cool. All right, what else you got for me? But you're exactly right. And that's something that I've always thought in my mind is a lot of dancers. They invest so much in the teaching of learning different, styles. But when it comes, you don't realize this is still a business. Correct. If you don't know how to run a business, you're not going to last. You're just going to be at the socials, and that's cool. But if you want to make this a successful business, you have to learn how to run a business. You have to learn the books. You have to learn, because a lot of dancers too, I realized through this platform, are extremely shy. And I tell people, you have to learn to make the uncomfortable comfortable, because you're also dealing with people. Socialization is one of the greatest things in life, because learning about different people, if you can't have a simple conversation, how are you going to grow? How are you, like, they might love the viral video that just went all over the world from a trick you did or from a great performance. But if you can't have a simple conversation with somebody that admires that performance, there's only so far you're going to go.
Right. And then also, and it's a piggyback off of that when it comes to business, because I'm big into business. I think with anything, if you do something good at it, you should be making at least a decent amount. If you're good at it and you love it and you dedicate yourself to really learning the business, you should be making, pretty decent, depending on how many hours, depending on how many hours you're putting into it. But when it comes to, I compare dancers to, let's say a personal trainer, right? Let's say you're a person that wants to put on muscle, right? You want to build strength, and you have two options. One person gives you their business card. It says, I'm a personal trainer. The other person gives you a business card, says, I'm a strength development specialist. Who are you going to go to?
Strength development specialist.
Exactly. So all the dance instructors in their Instagram profile and their Facebook or the business card, if they have one, I'm a salsa instructor. Or they'll go tell somebody, well, there's thousands of you. Why should someone go to you?
Yes.
And if you're not talking to people, they definitely not going to go to you.
No. And it's
definitely not going to go to you. So what I was doing, so this is what happened. This is what helped me. This is what helped me in Denver. I had my regular group classes, right? Anyone can come. But then I had a special class on Fridays. It was I did 8-week series, and I focused on couples. And what I said was, I'm going to be the dance instructor for couples so they can have a Friday night. to go out. I dominated that niche. I dominated it because everyone else said, oh, come to La Rumba nightclub so you could take a class and then have a drink, or come to my, but why should they go to you? What's in it for them? So if I'm giving, just a small bit of advice of things that I know, artists or dancers, you need to niche down. Who do you want to teach? That way you can connect with those people, and you need to create your social media posts, and your website needs to be dedicated to connecting with those people. What are the reasons why, let's say I say, okay, I'm going to focus on teaching dance to men 40 and up. What are some of the things that may impact men 40 and up? Divorce, or recovering from a job loss, they're trying to be able to deal with rejection, because dance is going to teach you how to deal with rejection real quick.
That is a
if
fact.
you're a guy. If you're a girl, not really. But if you're a guy, yeah, you're going to be rejected probably your whole first year, buddy. You ain't just going to go to the club and all the follows going to say, yeah, because the follows want to dance with them G's.
Because them crossbody leads and that right turn can only last about 26 seconds.
26 and it's like, yo, let's go. They want triple spins. They want this. So you have to really tailor yourself towards the people that you want to impact, the people that you want to teach. So niche down. If you're an instructor for everyone, you're an instructor for no one. I'll tell you that right now. If you're an instructor for everyone, you're an instructor for no one.
And that's really important, because I think too, what people get confused is it really takes you understanding the people and understanding what your kind of your base wants, because sometimes people try to go so out the box and it just doesn't work. But also, again, it's that confidence thing of, hey, knowing what you're able to do, knowing who you're able to connect with, and keeping that. Because like you said, you then working with Felix Ojeda, taking that time and that humility of saying, I need you to teach me how to do this. And I think it was Pachanga, Zumba fitness. And it was I remember that because it was three things you said, but then realizing how you tied everything together, and realizing, because again, now you see now the Zumba industry is blossoming. There are Zumba instructors all over the world globally now, just like with dance instructors, salsa, bachata. And what's interesting you said now, because we're going to get into really kind of quickly of how you then shifted into bachata, because like you said, you started out with salsa, and if people do not know, many of your favorite bachata instructors were salsa dancers first. So for me, my question to you is, how did that transition happen?
So in Denver, I was teaching both.
Okay.
In Colorado, I was teaching both. I was teaching salsa and bachata. The reason though I started to teach bachata was because salsa was getting oversaturated too. There wasn't any traditional, authentic bachata instructors in Denver. This was let's say 2016, 2017. There just weren't any. So I said, okay, I made a business decision. And I said, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to add bachata to salsa, because then I started a business. I started a business called Mile High Latin Dance, and I rented out. I've rented out a couple different studios. I was leasing studio space, and one day I would have salsa, the other day I would have bachata. So in Denver, I was teaching both. It was when I came here, then when I came to New York in January, this past January 2022. When Adolfo reached out, because I had a working relationship with Adolfo since 2017, 2018. It was around 2018 when I got introduced to Adolfo by one of my first Mambo on 2 coaches, which is Benny Ayala. Benny Ayala lives in Portland.
Yes.
He was the guy. He is the guy that really got me going on too. It was Benny Ayala. And Benny was always going to train in Milan every summer with Adolfo. I had talked to Benny about business. We're talking about, I helped with the East Meets West Festival in Portland. Benny talked to Adolfo about me. I did an interview with Adolfo. Adolfo was still living in Milan. And he's like, okay, I want you to help me with my marketing. And that's how I met Adolfo. I didn't meet Adolfo as a dance instructor. He would follow my stuff and he liked it.
Yeah.
But I was more of just a business mind, a marketing mind. That's how I met Adolfo in 2018.
Wow. And then even with East Meets West, one of my good friends, I think, worked on that was Oscar
Oh yeah,
from
Oscar
OGV.
from Mexico.
Yes.
Yeah,
One of
yeah.
my,
So he was there.
yes.
He brought his whole team up there. His whole
Yeah.
team was there. Yeah, I remember that. That was actually September 2018.
Yeah. And it's
September
like,
2018.
you see how the world and the community is so small, like,
Yeah.
and especially when you said East meets West. But then, like you said, meeting Adolfo, it wasn't under the pretenses of just the instructor to student thing. Like you said, it was more of a business. But then him creating Empire Mambo in New York. And don't get me wrong, Adolfo, before Empire Mambo, legendary in New York. I mean, every time at New York Congresses, people were like, "Oh, is Adolfo coming? Is he performing? Is he doing this?" And for me, I loved to see what Adolfo did with the LSD and the Latin soul dancers overseas, but then to bring that same influence and passion to New York was amazing. But what I really appreciated and I noticed was just a different focus on marketing. And now it like to actually pinpoint it and say, like, wow, I'm talking to the person that was influential and helped in that. Because I realized when I was like watching Empire Mambo, oh, this isn't just a regular dance school. The way they market is a lot different. And it's a lot more captivating for me, especially as a visual artist, that I'm like, oh, I see that. Like, who I have to give a big shout out to, I have my own company, but I'm a big person on shouting out other companies. Dream Tap is one of
Yes.
my favorite
Oh,
people.
so
Like,
speaking of Dream Tap, okay. So here's the thing. So in terms of Adolfo, he's always had a whole marketing team.
mhm.
Always. Even when he was in Milan, he understood. Dream Tap. So this is what I did when I showed up to Empire, right? There were no instructors paying Dream Tap directly. It was just Adolfo. I contacted her name is Jennifer, and I said, Jennifer, how much do I got to pay you for you to always record my demos? Because see, that's another thing. Again, at investing in yourself. When I got to New York, I had 700 Instagram followers. This was January. Now I'm about to be at 10,000. I give all that props to Dream Tap. I've done the photo shoots with basically with her, because they're a company of three. It's just three of them. Dream Tap is top of the line. If you're in New York City, anywhere, you need to reach out, work with them, or work with some team. You need to bring in media team. It can't just be teaching and leaving and just doing the work on your iPhone and you got the student. No, it's not. That's not business.
And it's true, because and I have to tell people this is I understand the evolution of phones. We understand even with the iPhones, and many visual artists that I know get so nervous now because they say, oh, a lot of the capabilities of a phone. But I tell people, as a visual artist for over 6 years, as a videographer, the one thing the iPhone can do is take your eye.
Right.
You are the one that is able to create those visions. You can put an iPhone on somebody's face and create something great. But also, I appreciate the people that have that equipment, that spend that money, that do that editing and put out amazing work. Like for me, again, as a media person, I appreciate other companies like DreamTap and other media sources, because again, those are inspirations for me, and to see how they really pushed Empire Mambo to a different level, in my opinion, because the teachers and instructors are great and the ambiance of it all is amazing. But to then put that with the media and their influence and their eye and put everything together in totality, like, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
It is the work though. I would say media is very, very important. People live on their phones and you only get about 3 to 5 seconds to get their attention. So hire professionals. You have to hire professionals. Oh, but it's too expensive. If it's too expensive, then you need to go get a job.
Yes.
You need to go get a job so you can invest in it. Like me, I have a daytime career that literally funds everything I want. And I will never leave that. So that's what other artists got to do. If you don't have enough money to invest in a videographer, then you need to go get a job.
Absolutely. Because the thing I tell people all the time, and a lot of them are my friends, like, listen, I understand you have this business that you are passionate about, but that passion ain't paying the bills.
100%.
If that passion is stressing you out more than it's making you smile, you need to realize, like for me, I have my own personal job besides filming. Filming is a passion. If I film 24/7, I tell people it's my thing, I would hate it because I'd be traveling away from my family.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm thankful that I got a team in New York, a team in Dallas, a team in Boston, a team in DMV. And I just want to help other content creators. But for me now, to you, my question to you is then, what is the overall for you experience been now working at Empire Mambo as an instructor over this past year?
So it was definitely a learning curve for me, and that's only because I'm used to having full control of what I do. When I left Black Belt Salsa, I pretty much went on my own. I formed my own High Latin Dance, and I was renting space, creating. I had my website created, all the marketing I would pay for myself. I selected my own times, all of that. Coming into Empire, which to me it's like being under like a Goldman Sachs, it's like a firm, right? I compare it maybe like a mafia, right? Adolfo is the boss of all bosses. Everybody has their role. It's at first it was a learning curve, right? I'm working with other instructors and everything, but I love it. There's power. There's a certain power in numbers. And there's a certain power in being surrounded by amazing talent. See, I was missing that in Denver. I got very comfortable because I was just doing my thing. There wasn't really competition. There wasn't really like, oh, I need to really progress. I was coasting. I get here to New York. I'm teaching bachata. Cool. The bachata classes, they got big pretty fast, but it's also pushed me to improve just my dancing overall.
Yeah.
And so you go into one of Adolfo's classes, or you go into one of Luis y Natalia's classes, their classes, or Selena or Natasha, anybody. Listen, you going into the lines then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. People, listen, let me tell you something. The students that are taking your class are literally dominating you in their class. Students that are taking your class, you go to take a class with Adolfo and they're right next to you and they Susie Qing the shit out of you 100%. So being in that environment makes you want to go harder. And that's what I have felt. Like this summer, I kind of took a break, but first, like in the winter, spring, when I started taking class, I was taking classes all the time because it really pushed me. You have Jorge Salas in there. You got Diego in there. You got Luis in there. And I'm going to just say the guys, right? Not even obviously the females are just, next level, right? You got all the Latin soul dancer guys in there. And you're like, I don't want to be the weak link. I'm going to go hard too. Let's go. And it's friendly though. It's friendly. It's not like we're just like, cutting each other up. It's friendly, but it really being in that environment, not just with dance, also with business, the way you see Adolfo interact with the client, with the students, the way you see Amber at the front desk, the way she kind of like controls the room. Like there's a certain, like you said, there's an ambiance there. Like you show up there and you showing up to work. You're not showing there to like play around. Yeah, there's that element of, I want to see my friends. I want to hang out. But when you go to Empire, you are going to work. So me being there, it really pushed me out of my comfort zone. It really, really did. It really pushed me to be better.
And I appreciate that honesty in that, because again, having a place like Empire Mambo with the amount of instructors, the amount of history it has in terms of the people teaching and the roads they've been through, like you said, you see people coming in. Of course, it's a fun environment, but you're coming here to work. You're coming here to learn. And the fact that it's been only helpful to you and inspiring you and pushing and motivating you to become a better instructor is amazing. And for me, just to see as well, when I'm watching your classes and I'm seeing the people enjoying it. And for me, I tell you this, I tell people all of this. I travel the states filming bachata events at the bachata events. And the biggest thing has always been the sensual and the traditional and the modern and the urban. For me, I've always been taught and always known that bachata is bachata. 100%. But my question to you is, you being a bachata instructor, what is your overall opinion on bachata sensual as the style?
I would say this. To me, bachata doesn't need a hyphen. It doesn't need to be a bachata sensual, a bachata moderna, bachata tradicional, and even worse, bachata dominicana, right? Bachata dominicana, that's a
Yeah,
use.
that's
Bachata
yeah.
is Dominican, right? Bachata is from Dominican Republic. Do I enjoy watching some sensual dancers, some of them. I would say this: there's a difference between the dance and there's a difference between the music.
Absolutely.
If you don't have at least 3 of the instruments, you cannot call it bachata music. You
And
can't
those
have
3 instruments are
at least, you gotta at least have the bass guitar. At least you gotta have the guira. I gotta hear the guira, and I gotta hear the bongo. Actually, I would even take it further. I need to hear all of them: bass guitar, lead guitar, segunda, guira, bongo. If you can't do those 5, at least I need to hear 3. I can't hear boom boom and then just say this is bachata and this is a bachata social. No, I need to hear all of that. And there's some modern bachata that I appreciate, like JR. You know,
yes.
I think I really appreciate his music. In terms of the dancing, if you want to do body waves, it's not my thing. If you want to
Yeah,
do body waves and you want to do all this, that's fine. But I need to see your basic and I need to see your box.
thank you. And I'm telling you, as a videographer, even as a dancer, like I've even noticed when I'm dancing with people, a lot of times it follows back leading into these body rolls and waves, and I'm like, wait, can we get a box step? Can we just have a simple connection without all of the extraness? And it's
Yeah.
interesting because I filmed this industry, and it's done so much for me, but I always as well question the validity and the authenticity of some of these dances because I see they learn something from a class and they try to immediately implement it. And the worst is when they go on YouTube and they see a professional demo and try to recreate that at a social, and it doesn't go as planned.
It
And
doesn't. And you know what's the worst part about that too? I blame it on the sensual instructors. I blame it on them because when I'm looking at a sensual class and I'm looking at a workshop, I'm like, are y'all teaching or are y'all performing? Because there's no way that these people at this workshop are going to be able to implement this in a social. That's one. Number two, y'all are dating. Y'all are actually together. You got guys coming from the street from somewhere. They think it's okay for them to do all this stuff. They don't understand. There's etiquette to this. You can't just put your knee between some girl's legs.
yes,
You can't put your
absolutely.
hand on some girl's face. I've seen guys put their hand on the girl's breasts and do some move where they're, you know,
Yeah.
they turn the follow, they put the girl's booty on their waist, and they take their arms and they're literally touching their breast.
Yeah.
Like,
And it's
where are you
and that's
learning this? You learn this from the sensual instructors. That's the only way, or from you and YouTube.
and to be honest, for me, I can definitely say there are instructors that I know that I see are teaching the right way in terms of telling people what I'm teaching you is what I'm teaching you. What I'm demoing is something totally different. And I love that when they give that distinction
Yeah.
because I know for a fact, and I've talked to certain instructors and had to tell them what you're teaching is not correct. And teachers don't like to hear that. I totally understand. But if you want to progress and you don't want people looking at you off, and then because the only thing people don't understand is those same people that you said you see doing all this crazy stuff, when you ask them, where did you learn that? And then when you go to the source and you start,
Yes,
because
it's
that's what
right.
I do. When I'm seeing these people, I'll come up to them and say, yo, where'd you learn that? Oh, cool. All right, let me message this person. And then I've had instructors be shook because I'm like, what are you doing? You're
Yeah,
the one complaining of how the culture is this when you don't realize you're adding to that.
that is
And and
correct.
and, and I think honestly, it's not just 2022. I just think as a whole, people are becoming more honest. For me, I can be honest, but with validation to what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm not a person sitting at home just watching things happen. Don't get me wrong, I'm a lot more times now I'm sitting at home with my son, But I'm also the one in these congresses, in these socials, at these workshops filming, and don't realize how much content I've never put out. There's so many videos I've never put out. There's so many dances I've never put out because I see the wrong in a lot of it, and then I'm the one helping people and instructors understand this is what needs to change. And for me, just to see people like yourself, that I'm thankful that Empire Mambo has a person like you teaching, because for me, like when it comes to bachata, there is nothing like traditional, and I also agree. I don't like the bachata dominicana, like seriously, because all of these like hyphenated terms, you almost lose the essence of what it really is. Because when you go to DR, oh, they looking at you like body rolls,
Wilding.
they're like,
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, and for me, I implore people, I really want people to, when you want to take a class, especially a bachata class, take a class from someone that really knows what they're doing. And I'm not saying this of an essential or traditional, whatever you want to say, because for me, bachata is bachata. But I think people should really focus on taking classes like yours, in my opinion, because you have to learn the essence of it before you can try to do all of this extra stuff. And
I agree 100%. And you know, I have several students that go to sensual movement classes here in New York City. They come and they even say, you know, first they were exposed to remixes.
Yes.
But when they hear the pain in Luis Vargas' voice and they hear Raulin's guitar, the goosebumps, you see it, right? You see it. Now, when they go out dancing, what do they do now? They kind of like combine different styles, right? So they'll know how to do their basic and their box, but they're going to add the roll because that's a personal preference thing. I get it. That's a personal preference thing. But in terms of the feeling, for me, it's about, do you feel the music that you're dancing to? And I would say everybody that prefers sensual, if that's your preference, fine. But ask yourself, do you like bachata or do you like pop/R&B? What do you actually like? Okay, because if you tell me, oh, is that I don't like tiki. Oh, you don't like the guitar? That means you don't like bachata.
Exactly.
You can't like bachata if you don't like the guitar. You can't.
No, you're totally right. Because and lastly, I have to say on that is, for me, people don't realize, like, I've been in this industry over 25 years. I actually don't speak Spanish very well. So when I got put into dance, it was more of a way of to say, all right, if I can't speak it as well, I damn sure I'm going to dance it better than these people. And that was always a chip on my shoulder. And what I realized was through bachata remixes, that was a gateway for people who didn't know Spanish, because they said, oh, I heard Usher Climax is a bachata remix. I heard this and this. And it was using the top 40s,
right,
as a kind of like, oh, you can hear that and add these little instrumentations in. And don't get me wrong, I appreciate the artistry and the musicality of it. But what I also appreciate is those same DJs that will tell people, this is an influence. This is not what bachata music is. This
correct,
is just a rendition or an understanding of what the sensual, and giving people an understanding of like, oh, you know, I may not like, or I may not understand bachata music, but I understand these lyrics. And then now, if I can move here, cool. But I definitely implore people again to really, if you're gonna learn bachata, learn it as a whole.
as a whole,
Because as a whole, and that's the thing too, is like, for me, I appreciate people that can do both or can do it all. Because again, like I can't body roll, I can't do all of these crazy dips and tricks and turns. I'm not like that. I'll do it in the perfect setting, but for me, like, nothing is better than Luis Vargas, Raul Rodriguez, you know, Joe Veras, the list goes on. And mind me being a person who doesn't know Spanish that well, bachata actually like motivated me to learn more Spanish. So I would listen to all of this music. And, you know, for me, again, like you said, we've seen how the bachata community has evolved, for good, for bad, you know, but it has evolved much more. And now I think it helps us transition to our last segment called the randoms, because I got some questions here for you. I got at the top of the head from our conversations here about 3 to 5 questions that really are going to help hone in on what we've been able to talk about. So my first question to
Well, before
you, yes, absolutely.
I just want to say something. Just also to summarize the last segment is
Mhm.
I give props also to like DJs like Tronky and Soltrix, right? Because they get a lot
Yeah,
of flack, right? But if it wasn't for them, there would be a large base of bachateros, bachateras that would never even try a bachata class. So in that sense, in terms of like the music, right? Like, okay, me and you know, okay, there's definitely instruments missing, but there's a large segment of people that would have never been in my class if they didn't hear that Trunky remix
absolutely,
or that
absolutely.
Soul Tricks or any other remix. So I do want to give those people props, you know, for exposing. Now, I do think they need to do a little bit more on the education side, but they're DJs, so it's more about, okay, we're gonna remix, we're gonna make money. It's a totally different thing. It's a different art for them.
Yeah, no, totally understand. And it's interesting because, even some of the questions I have here deal with the music industry. So my first question to you is, what was your honest opinion on Romeo's new album?
On his new album, my opinion is that you mean the Formula Volume 3?
Yes, because what I mean by that is understanding, because I've heard a lot of mixed reviews in terms of people saying he was going all over the place. He was like trying to hit every kind of different focus, like with the sensual style, like the type of music, of course, is different, which is understandably is going to be different because I guess a lot of people, quote unquote, want the same Romeo that they've heard from previous. But for you, what was your honest opinion on that album?
I really like the album, and I think what happened is this: Utopia came out.
Yes.
And people thought, okay, this is what Romeo's gonna do moving forward. But if you listen to Formula Volume 1, Volume 2, I mean, he had Usher on there, he's had Drake, now he has Justin Timberlake. I think that's just the concept. The formula concept is this kind of whole mixing of different genres and kind of like pushing the envelope a little bit. Not every album is going to be Utopia. Not every album is going to be We Broke the Rules from 20 years ago. It's not. I mean, at the end of the day, Romeo's an artist and he's pushing artistry, kind of like Drake. Drake came out with this dance album. I like a few of the songs on there, but a lot of people hate it. I'm like, I like this. I like artistry. So I like the album. My favorite song is Solo Conmigo. That one hits. That one hits. I have that. That's the one I added to my Apple. I've already played it in my class. I haven't played other songs though. I played that
one. Perfect. All right. Next question is, I'm going to put you on the spot. So right now you got at one of your favorite dancing socials, last song of the night. You can only choose one person to dance with. Who is it?
Oof. If I had a bachata,
absolutely,
and I had one person to dance it with, a pro or just
anyone.
Oh, that's so tough. There's so many good follows. Listen, if there's a lineup of 100 follows, well, I'm gonna just say it. If there's a lineup of 100 women, there'll have to be Maria Ramos.
Maria
I
can see it, and you felt that when you said that. I love that.
Yeah, Maria Ramos. Yeah. I have a bunch of. I mean, I've got students like in my I don't know if you've seen my Instagram videos.
Yeah,
the trees, right? There's. They coming up. That's gonna be, you're gonna see that those people in Empire, they're coming up. They'll be the next instructors in a couple of years. She's really fun to dance with. Margie Montes, Margie Montes?
Of course.
Fire too, fire. But I would have to say, yeah, Maria Ramos.
Okay, I love that. All right, next question here. It's gonna be a word association. We're gonna do 2 words here. So the first word is New York City.
Eddie Torres.
Oh, okay.
In terms of dance, you mean, right? Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
could be
Olympic
anything, but
dance.
that was the first thing that came up. I love it. All right, so
Yeah.
second, but that was really 3 words one. But the second one would be congresses.
There's a specific word I'm looking for, outdated.
Mm, okay.
The
Is
the
it
the
just that?
Congress the Congress model, the Congress model ain't it.
Mm,
The person that the current model, the person that has the best Congress model that I've seen is Scary Sarasota. I think she has the perfect model. Thursday night pre-party, Friday workshops, Saturday workshops, Sunday, do whatever you want, go back home. This whole thing of Thursday to Sunday and workshops back to back to back and all this, no,
mhm.
no. There has to be what I think promoters need to do is start bringing in elements of the city into the event. Make the city part of the event so that it's not like you just go to a hotel, you dance every day, you take workshops and you go home. No, I think because what do you see? Every Congress, the same people.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing, you people, if you want to get the younger people, you're gonna have to start bringing some of them heels and reggaeton classes and all that. That needs to start
That
being a
is,
permanent fixture, because when those young people come and they take the reggaeton class and all that, then they start seeing, oh, what is that salsa? But my parents didn't dance salsa like this. This is cool.
mm-hmm.
And then that's how you get a new generation coming up of younger people. You got the young girls in teams, but the young boys, where they at?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
hey, that's always been a thing in our dance community is the ratio to female to male, and hey, we can only hope that we have more leads in general, but I definitely appreciate that on the word association part. So my next question to you is, if you could be at only one event right now, what event would that be?
LA Traditional Bachata Festival.
Hey, because I heard LA traditional, that was the
Yo,
signature,
let
like,
me tell you. And I'm a person, I don't get hired for congresses. I get hired in Denver because people know me in Denver. I don't get hired in congresses. Now I know that a lot of it has to do with I don't perform. I don't perform. I am a teacher and a social dancer. But that's fine because my goal has never been to be hired at congresses. Never. Never. My day job is too good. I'm never leaving it. I'm never leaving. I'm not going to lose sleep.
yeah.
But LA traditional, and last year was the first one. And when I tell you it
Yes.
was 5, it was 3 rooms, but it was 1 room. Everybody was dancing in 1 room. And next year it's going to be literally 1 room, everyone dancing in 1 room. And that's another thing with congresses. I don't believe in separating rooms. Dancing is dancing. Everybody, 1 big ballroom, salsa, bachata, cha-cha-cha, merengue, reggaeton, all that. You have to bring, because that's the only way you're also going to bring just a regular community, the regular Latinos that don't go to classes and stuff. That's how you're going to bring them in. You're not going to bring them in with just a mambo room and then a bachata room, and they're like, what is this? You gotta bring in the people. You gotta bring in all genres. But what do you have? You have a lot of salseros. Oh no, okay, I don't want to hear bachata. Then you have bachateros. I don't want to hear salsa. And merengue, forget it. Nobody likes merengue, supposedly, even though merengue is like the #1 genre listened to in the world, like in Latin America.
I mean, I feel like merengue and cha-cha is almost like with the roaches, they scatter, and it's like when the light turns on. And for me, like merengue and cha-cha, like merengue, cha-cha, salsa, bachata, those 4 specifically. I'm one of those people. I feel like I'm a rarity now that will dance everything.
Everything.
But as we see is that specific styles are what people focus on. But again, with our communities, we can only hope that things evolve. We can only hope that in the future Congresses have a new approach to things. But now it actually helps us lead to our last question. And this one is more of an introspective question. So Guillermo, from your career, from really start till currently, years from now, how would you like to be remembered?
I mean, I would just like to remember as a person that impacted people's lives through dance, through just my way of being with people. My students send me DMs. I have a student right now. He left New York. He went to Miami. He was struggling for a little bit. You know, he sends me voice texts. You know, I have another student who's suffering because their mother has cancer. Like, I just want to be remembered as someone that made an impact in people's lives. I mean, that's it. At the end of the day, that's what it should be about. You know, that's what I think. Art is a form of expression. You know, certain people express themselves through painting, certain people through singing, certain people through sculpting. I mean, remember in the movie Ghost,
Yeah.
how was Patrick Swayze's girlfriend, Demi Moore? How was she coping? She was doing the pottery.
The clay pottery.
Remember,
And
that's what it is. That's art. You know, and that's what it is. I just want to impact people in a positive way. That's it.
man,
Everything else is nothing, you know. Like, I mean, I don't want to say, yeah, it is nothing compared to like real world problems. I mean, we're not ending world poverty. We're not ending hunger. We're not sending a man to the moon. We're dancing.
absolutely.
That's what we're doing.
We're giving people an escape from their reality for 30
Exactly.
to an hour of their time. And you know, again,
Exactly.
just being able to have this conversation with you means a lot, because you are really the example of why I do these platforms. Because the one word that I can say that I can connect with you is the word care. Because ultimately, from start to finish of our conversation, I've seen that you truly just care about not just the style of dance and the history of it, but you care about the people. Because again, I think what gets lost in our business is the caring of individuals, because it becomes so transactional that sometimes many of us forget that we're dealing with human beings that have their own personal lives and things that they go through. And for me to be able to have this time with you means a lot, because it shows me that there are artists that truly do care about the communities, not just from the classes they teach, but as you say, outside of the class, you can still reach out to your students and they know that you understand. And you know, for me, again, having you on has been amazing. And I'm really looking forward to hopefully doing this again, maybe even in person, catching up with you at the studio, seeing how things are. But at least before we do go, I would love to know if you had any last few words for myself and the audience, but also contact info on how people can reach you.
All right, so you could reach me on Instagram at I am Guillermo Reyes. Also the same on Facebook at I am Guillermo Reyes. You could just go to empiremambo.nyc if you want to take classes. Also, Mambo Virtual Academy. My classes will be on there as well, mambovirtualacademy.com. And I guess the last thing I would like to say for the people is, you know, remember the privilege that we have. You know, I'm assuming that a large percentage of your viewers are you know, dancers.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in America and we get to just go dance. You know, I have two students. They're from Ukraine. They're taking classes. Their families in a war zone. People got to think about perspective. Think about perspective. Think about the privilege that we have, and also keep working on just being a better person. I do the same. You know, I'm not perfect. Like, professional wise, I'm good. Sometimes in my personal life, I've made a lot of mistakes that I'm working through, right?
Mm-hmm.
So think about just perspective. Think about where you are and think about how you can make the lives of other people better, as you know, along your journey of becoming better yourself.
Absolutely. And for me, again, like I said earlier, was this platform is for people like yourself. This is a safe space for artists and creatives, because again, in our field, it's like you're here one day, you're gone the next. And I think it's so important that we keep and understand the stories and tell these stories of artists like yourselves from your point of view. So someone else isn't telling it for you.
Correct.
You know, and that happens a lot in our industry. But you know, for me, having you on has been amazing. It's been a long time coming. I definitely can't wait to see what you have going in the future here at the podcast. We fully support everything you're doing. We definitely will be promoting your work for years to come. And again, Guillermo, I appreciate your time and your value. And from one artist to another, thank you for what you do. You are appreciated. And you know, everyone who will be tuning in, this has been another special episode of the Let's Discuss with Diamond podcast. I'm here, Diamond Rivera, with the one and only Guillermo Reyes. Everyone, take care. Have a great night. See you soon.